All right. So let's look at it. Working with the type tool or the text tool. All right. Anybody can just tell me how you would use the type tool? How do you typically use the type tool to create text on your document? Anybody?
I would click the type tool and just click anywhere on my document and start to type, or I draw a box using the type tool and text and type within that box.
Okay.
As
All right, cool. So you just described two different methods of creating text, right? The first one is called freeform text, where you use the type tool. You simply just click a single click anywhere on your document, right? If you have Creative Cloud, you will notice that Lorem Ipsum automatically shows you where your text is going to, where and what your text is going to look like, right? And then we just begin to type. So this one is called freeform text. The advantage of freeform text is that you can type for as much as you want and it will continue going in a straight line until you press the enter key, and then you will go to a next line. Yeah. And so again, you go on to the next line. If you want to break up your text into, say, equally spaced or equally length sections, you have to manually put in your breaks by pressing enter to break up your text. All right. That is probably the most versatile form of text. That is probably the only way that I create my text mainly. I seldom use the text box, but let's look at the text box next. The second way that you can create text on a document is by creating a text box. Now, a text box you would use when you have a fixed space to create text. So let's say you have a document that you're working on, right? And that document has images, it has text, it has other elements in it, right? But you want to add some specific text in a very specific place. Just give me a second, I'm waiting on my computer a bit. All right, so let's say we have these two objects on a document, and we want to add some text in between here. We could use freeform text and put it in and manually break it up. But an easier way to actually do that would be to create a text box. With that, you can create a text box. You would click and draw essentially to draw your text box. And you would create this text box within the area that you have for your text to go in, right? And again, you notice that the Lorem Ipsum will automatically fill up the box completely, right? And you would adjust the size of your text. So the text box actually constrains or forces the text to fit within the dimensions of the box. If you notice, when it gets to the edge of the box, it will automatically send the text down to another line, right? And if you change the size of the text, it automatically fits the text inside of the text box. All right. Now, when you have a text box and you want to change the size of the box, you need to first click on the text, and then you would see the text box highlighted, and then you can change the size of the box. Notice as the size of the box changes, it can adjust the text within the box itself. Right, so let's say we made a little bit more space on our layout, and we wanted to take up that half of that side of the document. We could manipulate our text box, edit it to fit in that new space. So again, using the type tool, simply click in your text box, and readjust the box. Everybody sees that? All right. Now, attempting to just resize the text box like this without first editing the text will result in you essentially squeezing or stretching your text, all right? So you can resize the text itself and the box by stretching it or squeezing it, but that is not the same as editing the text and then changing the size of your text box. Everybody see the difference between these two? Let's call this a text box. All right. Does everybody understand the difference between your freeform text and your text box? Any questions between these two? Okay, I'm assuming now we all good.
Yes, we're good.
All right.
Yeah, I understand.
Now, there are two more ways that you can use the type tool that I believe are not unique to Photoshop, but allow you to create unique text effects, right? The first one, and I want to use an ellipse for that, or a circle, something rather than a round, a square. Right. So let's say we have a shape, right? We used a box earlier to essentially constrain our text to that particular box, right? But let's say we had a shape that was not exactly a rectangle or a square, but it was something else, like a circle or any shape for that matter, right? And you wanted to fill that space with text. We could use another tool. It's one with the type tool, right? If you have your shape, you put your type tool over the shape. Notice how it changes. So over the regular background, you have your type tool, your insertion icon with a box around it. When I put it over the shape, and it has a circle around it, but notice, but just to note there that the circle around it is not because we have a circular shape, right? It just shows you that it's going to do something different. So that tool actually is the type within path tool. And if you click with it selected over the path, what will happen is it will fill up that path with text. So let me just copy that again and paste it down here so we can fill up the entire thing. Right? So if you notice, it automatically detects the edges of the path and it constrains the text to fit within the path and not go outside of the edges. So again, you can constrain your text to any shape, right? Using the type.
So you could do that one more time, please.
Excuse me?
You could do that one more time, please.
Sure, no problem. And let me do it with a different shape this time. Let us go with a polygon and we're gonna make a triangle. So a triangle has 3 sides.
You can't put your phone charge now, you know.
All right. So I created a different shape, right? We have a triangle this time. And again, the type within path is simple. All you need is a shape. You select your type tool, and to activate it, all you need to do is to go over your shape. Have your shape selected and go over your shape. Notice it turns from a square icon to a circular icon. And then you simply click over the shape, and it will automatically detect the edges of the shape and fit your text within that shape. make it a bit smaller so it can fit a bit better. Yeah, so it doesn't quite fit up exactly because of the way it breaks up the text, right? But hold on. Let's say I wanted it to fit more exactly. Oh, actually, hyphenated already. Yeah. All right. But we'll look at the panels in the next class. We may not have time to get that done today. Not everything anyway. All right. Did you guys understand the type within a path?
Yes, sir.
So again, once you created your text layer is separate from your shape layer, so we can actually remove it, and the text will be maintained in that shape. Now, if for some reason you want to change the shape after you created it, right? Which I recommend you get your shapes done in advance, but it's something that you can do using your direct selection tool. All right. And then you can customize your shape the way that you essentially would normally. And the text being already bonded to that shape will try its best to fit within it. It may not be perfect, but yeah, you get the idea. All right. Okay. So far, we've looked at 3 ways you can use the type tool. We have the free-form text. You can create free-form text. You can create a text box. You can type within a shape. Any questions on any of those? We're going to look at the 4th tool that you can use. Again, let's go for polygon this time. Let's make it a pentagon. And really, I'm just using creative shapes so we can see the effect across different shapes, but any shape will do. All right. And again, the color of the shape doesn't matter. I am only using bright colors so that we can distinguish the shape from the text that we're going to be working. All right. So here we have a pentagon. All right. And the final tool that we can use in our text arsenal is called the type on path tool. So free-form text you create outside of a path or a text box, right? And type within path you create over a path, right? If you want to type on a path, the same type tool, you put it over the edge, over the boundary of the path, over the path itself, right? And notice the cursor again changes to the insertion point with a little squiggly line running through it. Everybody can see it? And once you see that icon, you can simply make one click again, single click, and that will detect the edges of the path and type on the path or on the edges of the path, as we see here. Everybody see that? So we can click on the text, and if we add more text, it will essentially overwrite itself and disappear over the edge of the path because it will not cover the existing text. But essentially, you can keep typing and it'll keep going around the edge of the path until it disappears around the edge. You can also, using your direct selection tool, edit the text. Sorry, not the path. Let's get the path out of the way for now. And we have the text that is already in that shape, right? We can also modify the text by pushing it. 1 second. By pushing it to make it start essentially at a different point on the document, So we can push it forward, we can pull it back. Well, back we're going over the other side, so yeah. Or we can put it on the other side of the text. So right now, sorry, on the other side of the shape. So right now, or of the path, rather. Right now, it's on the outside of the path. I can click and drag and pull it to the inside of the path. Everybody see that? And now it's on the inside of the path. I can also adjust where it starts and ends, right? To end up with something that looks like this. And of course, I can, again, using the direct selection tool, modify the path itself and get the text to follow the path. Well, if you change the path and it's on the path, it's going to follow the path. So you can get your text adjusted differently. Any questions on that? The type on path tool?
So can you do it one more time?
All right, so let's take it one more time. Sorry, here. Let's go with a different shape this time. We're gonna go with circle this time again. So first I draw my path. In this case, my path is a shape, right? A shape is a path. Let us just get the text, sorry, the shape, a different color. Do something brighter. And if you want to type on the path, use the type tool, and you put the type tool, you place it over the edge of the path, not over the path, or over the shape rather, but over the path, which is the edge, the boundary. All right, you will get that icon, the insertion point with the little squiggly line running through it. One click will detect the edges and place your text around the path. Or if you type, text will follow your path. All right. You can adjust where your text starts and stops by switching to your direct selection tool. And if you go to the edge, notice you have an insertion point with a little arrow pointing forward or pointing backward, right? Everybody can see that? When you see that arrow, you can click and drag to pull your starting point back, right? Or you can do the same thing for your ending point, actually, pull your ending point forward. Sorry. You can also drag the text to the inside of the path. You can drag it back to the outside of the path and essentially customize it just the way that you want it on your path. In that case, our shape. Let's get it right on the edge there. Everybody got that?
Yes, sir.
All right. So you have 4 tools in your arsenal in working with type, right? Or working with text. You have your freeform text, all right? Where you simply just click and type, and that will type your text in a straight line until you press enter to send it down to a new line. Yeah. You have the option to create a text box where you click and drag to draw a box and you type your text within that box, right? You can create text also within a shape by having a shape selected, select the shape, and clicking over the shape with the type tool. You can essentially fill the shape with text as typing within a path, and you can type on path, again, by having a path or a shape selected with the type tool. Sorry, let's select the shape. We go over the edge and we type on the path now, which follows the edge of the path. Right? If you look at your type tool, these tools are not apparent. What you see is just the horizontal type tool, which will create text horizontally, and the vertical type tool, which will allow you to create text going in an up, down, or vertical manner. All right. Let me clear my screen a little bit. Right, so your initial type tool just looks like what it has is the horizontal and vertical type tool. So this is vertical text. The horizontal text is what you're used to. But if you know how to use the type tool, you can actually uncover 4 different methods of using your type tool within your document. Let me just give you an example of how that can play out for you. So let's do something a little less, something a bit more interesting. Let's create our own path. Using the pen tool, you guys should have been practicing using the pen tool, all right? But I can use the pen tool to create a path or a shape. I want to create a shape really because a path you don't see on the document, you actually have to go into the path panel to see them. But because I really want to see it on the document, I'm going to use a shape. But you can't create either a path or a shape with your pen tool, all right? So let's create a shape here because a shape appears on our document so we can see what it looks like. And I want to separate my document into 2 parts using a shape. So I drew this shape with my pen tool, right? Let's give it a different color. Let's do it a different way. We can go on the layers panel this time, double click here. Pull up our color picker. By the way, in every step, I was showing you a different technique to create your shape, change your shape color and all of that. I hope you guys will picking it up. All right, I tried using the different techniques that I know. All right, so we have this shape, right? We can actually create text on the shape. So let's do that. Sorry. Show up on another screen. All right, so with our custom shape now, let's use the type on path to create text that will follow the edge of that shape, right? So we come here on the edge, simply click the right tool highlighted, right? And then I want it to start here and stop right at the top over there. So I simply adjust my end. Sorry, that's actually my starting point. So that's my starting point. All right, that's my end point. Actually, that's my starting point. Let me get my end point now. The type on path, it can be a little bit troublesome. You have to find your start point and your end point properly. Okay, there it is. So my end point should end here, right on the tip, and my start point should start here. Right, so we run across the entire length of the path, well, the visible path anyway. All right, so that is the type on path, typing on a custom path. Whether you choose to leave the path on your document or take it out is up to you. The text will stay, right? Let us put that text in a different color. Let's switch up the font, and then we're going to type within the path. I just changed the font just for fun. And we can also, using that same custom path, select the path and create our text within the path. So we go over the path and simply make one click. Sorry, hold on. I have that text layer over it. Let me just make it invisible so we don't mix up the two. Select the right shape and click. Now notice it's a bad path to type within because the path actually runs over the edge of the document, but that's okay for now. Let's copy that and make it a little bit more. All right. So there is our text within our path. As usual, if we wanted to adjust the path, so you can see right now the path runs over the edge of the document, I can modify my path. So let's just fix it up so that it is constrained to the edge of the document and doesn't run over. I'm just doing it in a fast way. So we're just adjusting the end of our text so that it doesn't run off the edge. So let's put that one there. All right, and there we have it. We also have our type 1 path here. We have our type in path here. Let's change the color so we can see the difference between the two. And you guys should already know how to create the freeform text and the text box. Any questions on using the type tool, creating different types of text with the type tool?
No, sir.
No, sir.
All right, cool. Now, today, we were actually also supposed to look at the type panels, the relevant type panels, meaning your character, your paragraph, and your glyphs. Where is it? Glyphs. I think we have 5 minutes. Let's see how we can run through it quickly. I don't think there's enough time to go over every aspect of it before we have to leave. But our session ends in 8 minutes, so let's just make the best of it, all right? Let's just pull your type panels together. All right. Now, when you're working with text, I'm going to delete those layers because they can be a little bit maybe confusing. And we're just going to work with a regular freeform text for this example. Well, let's use a text box. So let's create a text box. All right. And let's look at our type panels. So the first one I want to introduce you to is the character panel. If you're unsure, if you're not seeing it, sorry, if you're not seeing it, you go up to Window and Character, right? And that should bring up your character panel for you. You can also access the character panel if you have the type tool selected and you go up into the options bar at the top. You have the option to click this button here to show or hide the character panel. All right. To use your character panel, you can simply select the text layer, meaning the layer, the entire layer. And when you make a change in the character panel or in any of the panels, it will affect the entire layer. So if I change the font, it's going to change the font face of the entire layer, right, or the font style of the entire layer. However, we can use it a bit more intuitively and select exactly what we want to adjust. So let's select this area here. Start from the cube. And with a selection made, we can actually make a change to just that portion that is selected of the text. Okay. Right. So if we wanted to change the font face, if we wanted to change the font color, sorry, system running a little bit slow. Let's make a new selection. Let's select just Lorem Ipsum. right? I'm going to change the color of just that. We make the selection, and you can change it from the character panel. Yeah, so you do not have to adjust all of your text at once. You can actually make selections and change just the areas that you need adjusted. Everybody see that?
Yes, sir.
All right, nice. Let us just quickly, in the 5 minutes that we have left, run through the character panel, right? I'll show you what the different features are, what all of these represent, and essentially how we would use it. So the first box, let's just make a selection. We're going to select the first 2 lines, okay? Select from lorem to in, I guess. Let's go the first paragraph to Aquila, right? The first box, as you can imagine, would change the font or how your font looks, the font that you use in your design. That's straightforward enough. You can also make a lot of those changes up there from the options bar, but we're looking at the panels today, right? So you can change your font. You can change your font options in the box directly next to it. So different fonts have different font options. Now, what I mean by font options, you have bold, italic, you have semi-bold, you have heavy. Some fonts have way more options. Like for instance, let me show you. Well, I think we use Helvetica here. So I'm going to select the Helvetica text at the bottom. Look at the wide range of options that I have for Helvetica, ranging from ultra light, thin, light, Roman, italic, medium, bold, heavy, black italic, right? So we can get text with all sorts of thickness. Oh, sorry, that's Helvetica, right? By adjusting the font options here. Directly below the font name, you have the size. Size is straightforward enough. You want to make your text larger or smaller, you adjust the font size. Smaller number is a smaller size, bigger number is a bigger size, right? To the right of that, we have what is called the leading. Some people will refer to it as a line height, but that's technically different. So the leading will adjust the space between your individual lines. So if you want to like double space your text, that is essentially how you do it, right? Or you can make your space between your lines much smaller to the point where they overlap each other, right? That is called your leading. Auto will give you a default setting, which should work most times, right? The kerning is really the space between two characters, and you have different characters, they tilt in different ways, such as italics and so on. And the kerning will determine how the space works between them. Typically, what we use is either metrics to use a measurement to calculate it, or optical to make it look better on the eye, right? Whichever option you choose is up to you. Some fonts will give you the option to change actual values. You can play around with that and see what it gets you, right? If you want to adjust the actual space between your characters, just the space between them, not taking into consideration any of the little edges that may sticking out, right? You have your character spacing or tracking right next to it, where you can decrease the space by putting a smaller value and make all your text much closer together, or increase the space by putting a higher value and spacing out your characters. Yes? The line below that, we have the option to stretch our text horizontally or vertically. So we can stretch it vertically by putting in a higher value here. So 200% is going to stretch it up 200%. Give me a minute, my computer is a little slow to respond. So it stretches it up, right? If you want to squeeze it in, let's make it 50. We have exactly 1 minute left, right? We can squeeze our text in that way. We can also do the same on the other side horizontally, so we can stretch it across or squeeze it in. In the interest of time, I'm not going to go through that. We can also adjust the actual line height, which is the space between the lines. So let me just put that back to 100. All right, guys, we have less than 1 minute. And I have a few things I want to do. And my meeting has actually started. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna end here for tonight. Does anybody have any questions, or I need to come back in to answer any questions, or can we just continue from the next class?
We will continue from the next class.
All right, guys. I hate to cut you off, but it's actually gonna cut off in a minute anyway, and I have that meeting to run to. So I will see you guys on Tuesday next week. Feel free to work with the type tool. Your homework was actually to create a business card today, but I'm leaving that for the